And yet we are still organizing the education of our children as if the white man still has jobs waiting for them in multitudes. How different our education would be if we sent our children to school to create jobs for themselves. To create their own economic and political systems, to see themselves as the major sources of their employment. We are a job creating people. All right. We don't realize it because we don't think in terms of nation. You see, if we saw ourselves as a nation, we could see that we create jobs like any other nation.
All right. We give thanks to Olodumare, the source of life and mind. We honor the ground that we stand on and the freedom to move across it. We call on the ancestors, known and unknown, who thought ahead of us, labored ahead of us, and made it possible for us to be here. Tonight we speak the name of Dr. Amos Wilson, a man who reminded us that power begins in the mind. May we not just quote him, may we understand him. May we not just admire his ideas. May we organize ourselves because of them. Let this gathering be serious. Let it sharpen us. Ashe. I'd like to welcome you to the inaugural Amos Wilson Education Symposium. Thank you for joining me today. This gathering was born out of my desire to draw out the energy of Amos Wilson's work in a way that forces us to see the answers that we've been looking for. They've been right in front of us the whole time. Again, thank you for joining me today. The year is 2026, and if we are honest, Amos Wilson's work still presses on us because the problems that he pointed out are still relevant. He was not diagnosing a moment, he was diagnosing a pattern, and that pattern still operates today. I believe that you were led here today because you know, like I know, that we've been doing great work. But that great work that we've been doing is incomplete. We say we want unity, we say we want power, we say we want our children to be prepared for something greater than survival. We say we want a collective movement. But if we are honest, then what we are currently doing in education, African-centered education, has not reliably produced organized strength. This is not a betrayal to African-centered education. I am an African-centered educator myself. This is simply an evaluation. We have restored identity. We have centered history. We have taught pride. We have corrected historical distortions. We've built schools. We've homeschooled. We've created independent institutions. This generation did not sit still. But the question here is today that needs to be asked: how has self-affirmation alone changed our group situation? When has pride alone disciplined our coordination? If identity restoration was the final step, then why are we struggling still to operate together when it counts? Confidence is necessary, historical clarity is necessary, but neither one of those automatically teaches people how to move in sync under pressure. And pressure is where power is tested. Most schooling, even ours, still ends with the individual. What will you become? What will you achieve? What will you accomplish? And those are great, valid questions. But power is not built by the accomplishment of one individual who never learned how to lock in with the others. Power is built when strong individuals know how to function as one body. And that's where education should go next. That does not happen automatically. We cannot assume that our children will do that once they are finished with their schooling. Again, we are here because Amos Wilson was mainly concerned with power, not pride. He said, we must reorganize ourselves. Have we done that? Not our language, not our aesthetics, not our slogans, ourselves. Have we reorganized ourselves? And are we reorganizing our children? He talked about how people think. He talked about how people are shaped. He He talked about culture as a tool. If thinking patterns are a tool and personality is a tool and culture is a tool, then those tools must be formed intentionally in education. That formation begins in childhood. He was clear that power is psychological before it is political, meaning if we do not control how our children are being shaped mentally, emotionally, and socially, we cannot expect them to control the collective future. If people are trained to compete internally, if they are trained to distrust on reflex, if they are trained to protect their ego before a mission, that will show up. The way that we show up, the way that a person shows up or does not show up is in their education. The way that we handle disagreement is in education. The way that we respond to leadership is education. The way that we respond to power is education. So the real question is not whether our children feel affirmed. The question is whether they are being shaped for cooperation, for discipline, and for shared responsibility. Are we teaching them how to move together? Or are we assuming that that will naturally emerge? It hasn't and it won't. The Western system understands that their worldview shapes their psychology shapes their education shapes their behavior, and their behavior feeds back into the culture. Why are we not doing the same? That loop works for them, and we continuously play our part that they wrote for us. We continue to engage in behaviors or not counter them that make their system work to the fullest capacity. We need to stop. We cannot measure success by how proud our children feel. We cannot measure success by how many civilizations they can name. We can't measure success by cultural celebrations alone. You can love your people and still not know how to build with them. You can know your history and still not know how to put a mission before your ego. You can be culturally aware and still lack the training required for coordination. Again, this is not an insult. This is only pointing out a gap in our development. Right now, in many spaces, we are producing confident individuals. There's no doubt about that. But are we producing people who can function together without falling apart? Are we producing people who can disagree without dissolving? Are we producing people who understand obligation, not just their own identity? That is the shift. That is the next phase. We're not abandoning African-centered education. We are expanding it. I want to be clear, this is not a dismissal of grassroots work that we're doing as adults. I'm talking about the next generation. Our generation has done serious work. We have created alternatives, built institutions, we've corrected distortions. I've named all of those things. We've protected our children. All of those things matter, but what are we doing for them? There's a difference between activity and structure. There is a difference between gathering and governing. There's a difference between being in the same room and operating on shared principles. Building industries is different. Building systems that reinforce each other is different. That requires long-term thinking. That requires people who can put shared goals above their personal comfort. That's where the tension shows. Currently, we have diaspora tension, whether it's real or imagined. We've seen internal boundary politics with certain groups. These tensions are not random, they are a product of the enemy's desire. Fragmentation means internal division, and it will continue as long as we engage. If our children are not trained early to think in terms of shared consequences, not just personal achievements, then what we are experiencing now will continue to be predictable. We have to train our children to think beyond themselves. So where does this begin? Childhood, education. Power begins in the mind, and education cannot just provide information. It must train habits. It must shape our instincts, our children's instincts. It must reinforce responsibility to the group. Are we raising children who understand obligation to something larger than themselves? Are we training them to handle power without an inflated ego? Are we teaching them how to coordinate efforts over time together? We get what we form. I want you to remember that we get what we form. Our generation saw what was broken and we moved, we built, we protected, we created alternatives, we did what was necessary. Now we need to do something beyond ourselves that is necessary, something that's necessary for our children. If we want real unity when the pressure hits, if we want institutions that endure, if we want economic systems that feed educational systems, if we want a coordinated strength, then we must be deliberate about how we shape the next generation. We must design education to produce the people who can cooperate without suspicion, who can handle disagreement without fragmentation. That's the level up. Because development is psychological and power is psychological. And if development and power are psychological, then the education must be psychological too. We can't assume for it. We can't hope for it. We must build it, and the next generation is depending on it. Thank you.